Hey there chickens, it is day 8 of Vlogmas. Today I'm going to talk about the concept of cronehood in paganism and witchcraft. This is a topic that I've been asked about quite a few times on my journey so far, and it is one of those slippery subjects that I've always made the informed decision to avoid making a video about, specifically because my thoughts on it are kind of long and convoluted and fairly complex, so I kind of saw it as one of those bigger challenges that I might really need to sit down and think about. And I also wondered if perhaps I needed to think more about what cronehood meant to me before I really set anything in stone. Obviously I'm always evolving, I'm always thinking and perceiving of things differently, but I just felt like maybe I was a little bit stuck in my ways when it came to my thoughts about cronehood, and it might be, might be advisable to shake it up. But my friend Jill Freeman, who joined the ranks of woo-woo YouTube recently, she made a video not that long ago about crones and about the value of recognising the crones that have been valuable to you on your path or on your life journey. And it really made me think, and it made me remember some of the previous discussions that have taken place in the YouTube pagan community about cronehood in the past, and just a few of the different things that were highlighted for me and have gone through my mind. And I thought, you know what, I really want to tackle the cronehood thing reasonably soon. Jill is a tarot consultant and a Reiki master. You can click down below to check out her channel. I hugely recommend subscribing. I think she's going to bring a lot of good discussion points to the community. I became aware of the maiden, mother, crone, goddess triad concept, which is very popular in paganism or neo-paganism, however you want to look at it, when I was in my early teens, when I first started doing my reading about all of this. And I didn't connect with the maiden, mother, crone triad at all. I didn't connect with the idea. I didn't connect with the concept of the maiden. I thought the word maiden itself was pretty archaic and difficult to get my head round. I felt like it gave off a little bit of a damsel in distress vibe, a little bit of a, princess locked in a tall tower kind of thing, and it wasn't for me. A lot of the reading that I did around the concept of the maiden seemed to lead down these avenues that were to do with purity, innocence, naivety and virginity. And even at that young age, before I had claimed the word feminist for myself or done much thinking about my position in life as a woman and what it meant to be a woman in this world, I definitely knew already that I wasn't up for this idea of equating virginity with innocence or purity, and I wasn't up for this idea that a virgin somehow has spiritual access to some kind of realm which then becomes off limits once they start having a sexual life. And that was what a lot of my reading led me to, so I really wasn't into that. I couldn't connect with the idea of a maiden at all. The mother part of the triad I really didn't connect with. At the time that I started reading about these kinds of things, my mother and I had a really tumultuous relationship. It was all kinds of yuck. So the word mother was kind of really loaded already, but then on top of that, I knew that I didn't really want to be a mother, and I had no kind of feeling inside of me that motherhood was going to be my journey. So the word mother, I couldn't relate to it, and when it came to my relationship with my own mother, it was, But I always held a fondness for the term crone and for what I came to see that as meaning. And I think for me, crone was a lot to do with cronehood. The energy of cronehood had a lot to do with spiritual discipline, commitment, seriousness in your practice, really giving yourself to your practice. It had to do with not giving in to societal demands, not doing what society expects of you, owning every single stage of your life, not worshipping at the altar of youth and beauty, but recognizing that meaning and heart are so much deeper and so much more lifelong than we are taught in our society. I thought of cronehood as to do with emotional intelligence, the kind of wisdom to know when it's right to go into battle and when it's right to step back and refrain from putting your armour on. I saw cronehood as having an energy of true communion with the earth and an honest relationship with the concept of death and decay, and a willingness to stare certain things in the face, and the ability to have the time to do that when you get to a certain point in your life where maybe, your career is winding down or your children are leaving home, whatever the case may be, and you're getting to that point where you can really get back to you and you can get back to the sacred heart of your own journey. I saw a lot of things in cronehood. I felt like the idea of the crone was the most closely connected to the archetype of the witch. And if I'm honest, I didn't really feel my witchhood in the other two. So I kept Cronehood as a thing I was interested in, as an energy, an archetypal force that I was interested in. I do have other opinions about the goddess triad and what that means for us as women, and how we all as pagans and witches can connect to it or not connect to it. But for now, I'm just going to leave a video below that was made by Thorn Mooney from Drawing Canars that I really enjoyed about her perceptions of the triple goddess. Large parts of mainstream society, large segments of the media are obsessed with youth and feeding us constantly this idea, or feeding this idea back to us, if you like, on this perpetual cycle that youth is where power is, and youth is where sexiness is, and youth is where agency is, and that we lose our value when we get older. And this is particularly true for the journey of women in the society. So I think Cronehood and the idea that you come into some new form of spiritual potency and you experience this rite of passage as you get older as a woman is very appealing to me as a mortal woman who is aging. I hugely appreciate being underneath a theological umbrella, if you like, where the idea of aging, and particularly aging as a woman, is considered sacred and is looked upon as something to be revered and something to be honoured, something where quite a lot of excitement could lie, you know, something where a new lease of life could be entered into. I think it's really important for women to have those things as they reach, you know, the ending of their moon cycles, or their children start to leave home, or they start to notice that their body is looking different and their relationship to their body is feeling different, you know, or recognising that they don't feel as though they are valued in a certain way that they used to be valued, and realising that a lot of that feeling of value came from looks, it came from youth, it came from being a young woman. That's something that I know that I'm going to have to deal with and go through, and it's something that I have recognised is an illness in our society. So for me, the concept of Cronehood is very hopeful, it's very hope-giving, and it's something that I really respect and appreciate about paganism. At the same time, though, I do think that there is a shadow side to this. The shadow side is really about placing too much emphasis on the link between age and wisdom. I think that can definitely be a slippery slope, and I don't always think that is a good thing. I don't always think it's a reasonable thing. I know from walking around in the world on planet for a certain length of time now that age ain't nothing but a number. And in a great deal of cases, age does not dictate your level of emotional intelligence. It doesn't dictate your ability to cope with the challenges that you go through in life. Growing older doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to become more open-minded, more spiritually expansive, more tolerant. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be better at dealing with your feelings. And I do think it's really important to take that into consideration as well. So I do think that there is a shadow side to equating age with wisdom. I basically feel as though people need to be taken each on their own merit and approached as individuals. And I don't think we can make any assumptions about somebody's age meaning that they have a certain amount of wisdom or have acquired a certain amount of knowledge or will deal with situations in a specific way. I definitely don't think it's fair to assume that a woman of a specific age as a witch would be a certain kind of woman, that she would be ready, for example, to give instructional advice or to be a beacon of leadership in the community. I don't think it's fair to saddle her with that, and nor do I think that it's right to in any sense attack or judge her for not being quote unquote crone-like just because she's reached a specific age. And I do think that could probably be a danger as well. Sometimes I think cronehood is just a mindset. It's just a mindset. And for me, I feel that I often walk with that mindset. I walk in that mindset. I'm not of age to be considered officially moving into cronehood or anything like that, but sometimes I do just see it as a frame of mind and as a way of being in the world. At the same time though, it's very important for me that I honour the fact that I have not been through menopause. I haven't been through a lot of the key changes physically and mentally that you go through when that occurs. I haven't been through a lot of the feelings that I know I'm going to go through if I'm privileged enough to live on planet for more time, that are to do with the losing of my looks and the acceptance of the changing in my physical body, the acceptance in maybe the way that I see the world changing, shifting on its axis. I feel that I need to be aware within myself that it's one thing to say that cronehood is an energy and that I can access that energy, but it's quite another to refuse to humble myself in the face of the fact that there are some things that I just don't know about yet and I just don't understand yet. I'm at a certain point on the life journey and I would never in all my born days say that I could completely access Cronehood and everything that it can mean to me at the age of 31, when actually there's a long way for me to go, and there's a lot more for me to accept and deal with, and there's a lot more for me to go through. There are many more lessons to learn on planet. And I feel like I need to take that into me, and I need to recognise that it's actually wonderful that women can get to a certain age in their life, and under the umbrella of paganism or on their particular journey of witchcraft, they can feel that they can honour the changes that they're going through, that they can be exciting and rejuvenating and hope-giving. They don't have to be terrifying and tragic and sad. They can mean a whole new lease of life and a whole new focus on spiritual potency and a whole new shifting of the priority, so that more time is spent on spiritual focus and spiritual learning. And I have to honour the fact that Cronehood as a concept is very, very supportive of women who are going through life changes and are entering into a new phase of life. And I haven't had access to that experience just yet, you know. It's a few more years for me yet. So I just feel like I need to humble myself in the face of what I don't understand, you know. So I do think Cronehood can be seen as an energy, but I also am aware that I have the great privilege of saying that, because there's a lot that I haven't been through yet, that I'm still to go through, that I'm still to experience about the changing of my womanhood. And I'm very, very aware of how our culture works and how our society works, and I'm very aware that value is placed upon me in a lot of situations because of how I look, because of how I present, because of the fact that I'm female presenting, all of that kind of thing. I'm aware of that, you know. I'm aware of my privilege in a lot of different ways, and I have not felt as though I'm losing access to that privilege just yet, and dealing with what that really means and feeling what that really means. And there's a dark side to that journey, and I feel as though I can't truly say that I've accessed what it means to walk the path of the crone until that happens. So what I'm trying to say is that the concept of cronehood can definitely help women going through a certain stage of life to get excited about that change and to reframe it entirely. And to me, I think that's badass. I think it's defiant, I think it's revolutionary, and I think it's feminist as fuck. I think it's radical, and I love it. And I'm glad that I know about this concept, and I'm glad that I know about the power behind it. There is something really cool about it. Like I said, I'll never be the kind of person that automatically equates age with emotional intelligence or with a greater degree of tolerance or a greater degree of compassion, but I do think there's something very, very fucking awesome about those things coming with age. So when you do meet an older woman on the path, and she has been at her practice for a while, and you do find that she does have an incredible amount of knowledge or emotional intelligence, or she has that guiding force inside of her, you can tell that she's done a lot of work, a lot of inner work, a lot of communing with spirit, communing with deity, whatever it is, and she's got it to give, and she can be that bastion of light and intelligence and knowledge for younger people on the path, or for other people on the path. I do think that's bonus points, you know, all the way. And there is something incredibly powerful, I think, for me, about taking instruction or guidance from an older witch on the path, from an actually physically older witch on the path. That just means a lot to me, and I do think that that is really cool. In Jill's video, she asked us to consider who our crones are, who are the people in our lives that have really allowed us access to their crone energy, and how have we grown and been nurtured from that crone energy. There are so many different answers that I have to this particular question, but one thing I want to mention is that Iris Apfel is totally a crone heroine of mine. I fucking love her. She has really reminded me that style doesn't come with any age limit, that I can keep going and keep expressing myself and experimenting with the way that I dress right up until I'm in the box and they're putting me in the ground, you know. I'll recommend below a couple of documentaries, the Advanced Style documentary, which I'll link the trailer for, and also the documentary specifically about Iris Apfel and her incredible collection of clothes and her dedication to style and expression. Iris Apfel particularly is totally a crone goddess heroine for me. I love her. She's totally energizing and cool, and she makes me think about how I want to embrace my later years and how I want to do it. I want to do it upright. I want to do it up like Iris, and if I can do that, then I will have done it well. And yeah, she's just splendid. She's a real crone figure for me, so I thought I would mention that. And until Vlogmas Day 9, I hope you're all doing well. Much love, guys. Blessed be.